Hello friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I am going to show you how I illustrated and came up with the idea for the Story of Pluto. This is my latest children's book. It was very fun to make and Pluto is one of my favorite characters that I've created. So I hope you enjoy this video, you find something useful. If so, let me know in the comments so I can keep creating more for you. And let's start. Well, let me start by letting you know, so far I have published 3 children's books. I have a couple of more somewhere in a folder in my computer that I haven't kept working on, but I've wanted to illustrate books since, I don't know, since I was like 6 years old. And so this is something that I really love doing. And I usually go with a process of coming up with ideas, gathering ideas, see which one I like the most. And from there, I create some character sketches. And once I have the written story, I create thumbnails for each of the pages. However, for Pluto, that was not the situation. When I started this book, I was in this membership called Let's Make Picture Books, in which they teach you how to create your own children's book portfolio. And each month we have a different workbook. And the assignment for this month was to create a story, or I think it was even a spread. We didn't have to create the full thing, for a character that we came up with that was not human or an animal. So it very much had to be an inanimate object or plant or something like that. And I remembered Pluto. And I was like, why not? Like, it's not even considered a planet anymore, but for me as a millennial, it still is a planet. And I think for many of us it is. So I like the idea. I started researching, and I even told one of my brothers, I'm like, hey, tell Jack that I'm gonna make his son that I'm gonna make this book about a planet. It's Pluto. And his comment was like, Pluto's not a planet. Of course, he's 4 years old, or he was at the time. I was like, you don't know. You don't know. So it was even more important to create this book. And I did a lot of research, and I got everything from the NASA's website. Let me show you my sketchbook from that time. I wrote everything down from the facts that I thought were most important and that I could adapt in a way that young children could understand this, because this book was meant for early readers, so between 0 and like 5 years old. These were my very early sketches of Pluto, and he looked a little bold, so I gave him a hat, but also the hat is because he is a dwarf planet. So I was like, okay, how do I interpret this? And I thought of the Snow White's dwarfs. So, okay, I'm gonna give him a dwarf hat. This was a sketch. It didn't quite came up like this. A map to reach Pluto. This was different. This was separate from the book, and it was featured on They Draw and Travels on one of their books. And but you can also see this solar system example on the Story of Pluto. Let me show you. And so I started sketching just ideas of how I wanted the character to look like he's a baby, because he's a really small planet. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna make him a baby. And he's really cute, he's really sweet. And so I started developing the personality of the character in order for it to make sense later on throughout the book, to have something cohesive about him. I did those sketches, and normally I would go with something like this. The spreads for the entire book. This is a different book, but normally I sketch in one page the thumbnails for all of the spreads, which may change I may erase and redraw a lot, but so I have an idea of what the entirety of the book is gonna look like, and I can look at the big picture before going in separately to each page. This is the page of the solar system that I was talking to you about. Really cute. Pluto is super tiny right here. And um, and so for this book, I decided not to do that. I decided that I was gonna go with the flow. I was just gonna sketch it digitally because that's what I was feeling at the moment. And with that, I have to mention sometimes for books I sketch on paper because I don't know, that week I'm feeling like I'm drawing better on paper. I feel more, say, connected to the paper, whatever you want. I'm more comfortable with it. But there are other times, other weeks, that I feel more comfortable drawing directly onto my iPad. And that's how I've decided to do my things. How do I feel most comfortable doing this in this moment? And that's how I go about it. So whenever someone tells you, like, no, you have to do it like this, or you have to do it like that, think what serves me most right now and try it out because, if you think there's a way that's going to serve you better, you know yourself the most. So just think about that. Now, going back to where I was, we were talking about how I developed this book. I I started an idea, a very small idea. I'm not sure if I have it on the sketchbook, but I think I wrote down what each page, what each spread was going to have, and the order that it made sense for me to do it in. So I didn't do the thumbnails like this for this book. I just went with the flow, started drawing, and honestly, at the beginning, Pluto looked quite different because my art was not quite there yet. And I'm not sure if I can find any image, but if so, I'm gonna put it right here. And a few months later, I think I was using Photoshop back then, and then I started using Procreate, and I was very comfortable with it. So I redrew Pluto in Procreate, and he looks so much cuter. So I went along like that with the book, and that also shows, like, take your time with things because sometimes, like, that's what your character or your projects need the most. Don't rush it. Just enjoy the process, look at the process, analyze what you're doing, and just try to create the best. Think of how can I improve this, and give yourself time to make those improvements, because usually those improvements are not going to happen from one day to the other. And so I started drawing page by page based on my list what each one was going to look like. This is funny, I made the texture for Pluto. It's actually a picture that I took of a salt lamp that I have, and because I wanted Pluto to have, like, a planety texture. So that worked out perfectly because it was similar in color to his actual color, or to how I was going to show him, which is, I think, not too far from what he looks like. And let me see here. I can show you. I have not all of the pages, but here I have, you can see the pages for the book that I made in Procreate. And I named them all, like, page 16, page 14, to make sure everything would be organized, because that's a major part of the process. You have to be organized if you want to, be able to have a chance with this, because there are so many pages sometimes. This is not a thick book. Like, this is a very small book. But at the moment of working in it, there are so many pages, and sometimes, like, no, I just redid this one page, but you have the files for both, and you're like, is this the old version? Is this the new version? So you want to make sure you're organized with your files from the beginning. From the beginning, it might take a little time at the beginning, but it's gonna save you so much time later on. Like, so much time later on, believe me. And if not, don't try it out and see that it's, that it's gonna take longer. So, just my recommendation. So, I started drawing digitally. I started drawing where Pluto was gonna go. I hand lettered everything. Okay, there. I hand lettered everything. And this is a very simple book, a very, you could say, quick book to make. And it was really, really fun. So I made most of the pages, but then when I was going to publish it, I needed to add, I think, 6 more pages to meet the minimum quantity of pages to print because I self published on Amazon. And I was like, okay, which fact I went back to my book, to my sketchbook, and double check on the NASA's website because I didn't want to share any information that, that wasn't true and or that was doubtful. So I went back to my notes, see whatever I had not included yet, and created new pages. I I assembled everything on InDesign, and that's probably the best software to do it. But sorry, water break. But it's at least the one that I am the most comfortable in. I tried before assembling books in Adobe Illustrator, which is not meant for that. And but at the time there was like that was the software that I was the most comfortable with and the only one I worked in. So I was gonna do it in Illustrator. No, the files were really heavy and really slow because that software is not meant for that. Eventually, and this was a bajillion years ago. Eventually, I learned how to use InDesign. I absolutely love InDesign, and I use it at work every day of my life. Basically, I think every day, and it was really easy to put the book there. So I self-published it with Amazon, which was really easy. This is the book, and I actually have a story time coming up in one of the libraries near me, so that's really exciting. I will let you guys know how that goes. And yeah, so this was my process with the story of Pluto. I think this was very short because this is one of the easiest books that I've ever made. Just because it's very simple to me, and I think I really like the information. I really enjoyed the making it. I had a very clear vision on how Pluto was gonna look, on the attitudes that Pluto was gonna show throughout the book. So I think that's what made it easy. Like I organized myself really well at the beginning. I defined my character, and his context is the space, but like I knew my information. I did all the research. I sketched the character to a point that I was comfortable with, and everything flowed super easy afterwards. So I hope this serves you in any way. I can show you other processes for other books that I have made in the past. Um, the ones that I can show you are books that I have not published. One was a client commission. Others are still somewhere in my computer, but I can totally show that to you because those, like this one, um, I can show that to you. And let me know what else you would like to see. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe because I am just starting this channel. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed and have a wonderful day. Bye.